Greetings, offensive viewers. Public Offender here with our channel, Thinking Forward. Now here I have the fabulous Razor EcoSmart Metro scooter. They call it Metro for whatever reason. But yes, this is not a Razor EcoSmart Metro any longer. I have done so many modifications to it that it can't be classified as a Razor EcoSmart scooter any longer. So I've done some interesting things to it. Top speed on this thing out of the box is about 16 or so miles an hour on a nice day with no wind. However, I've got it to about 30 miles an hour just with what I would call minor modifications. You see, I didn't change the voltage. It's not overvolted. I didn't change the motor controller. I didn't change anything. It's still 36 volts like it was out of the box. The only thing I've done was change the battery amp hours. I took the 7 amp hour batteries and replaced it with 15 amp hour batteries in succession, 3. It's still 36 volts, 3 12-volt batteries. So it's fine. I was told the motor cannot handle that type of pressure, but it can. And also another thing I did, my original motor was only 500 watts, output, so I replaced it with a 1,000 watt. I just doubled. And the original spin at 2,200 RPMs. This one spins at about 3,100 RPM. So they also told me your controller cannot handle that sort of draw, but it's handling it just fine, just like I thought in my own mind. I understand how electricity works, alternating current or direct current. And also I says, okay, I'm moving a bit faster, so I said, how do I make it go even faster? So I said, sprocketry, gearing. So on the end of this motor, I took the original 11-tooth motor sprocket and replaced it with a 14-tooth sprocket. And later on, I plan on replacing the wheel sprocket with something a bit smaller. This is a 65-tooth sprocket. I do, in fact, have in my possession a 55-tooth sprocket. Just the chain has too much slack in it, so I have to remove a few links to make it, grab so it doesn't fall off. I tested it and of course it fell off. So right now we have about 30 miles an hour, running speed on this thing. And once I do the last mod, I should be pushing between 35 and 40. I don't know yet. I've done calculations, but I can't do it until I test it. But let's do a speed run. How about that? Alrighty, well, I'll show you the battery pack and everything under here, so let's pop the hood. Okay, see, this is the replacement battery pack I got. It barely fits in there. That's all that'll fit in there. Otherwise, I've gotten much larger capacity batteries. But I even had to take some of the bracketry out of here just to get these to fit in here. And these come pre-wired, pre-assembled, even with your 30 amp fuse. Everything inline fuse. From electricscooterparts.com. That's where I got these. As well as the motor and everything else I've done to this. And they were nice enough to pre-solder everything on. I didn't have to, it just came wired. All I had to do was plug it right in. It was fantastic. I didn't have to do anything in here. I mean, I've done some things. Like, I had a key switch here that I wired in line and everything, but that failed because of the 1,000 watt pool and everything. So so there's some of my electrical jargon, and that's that. Now, wiring the motor in here wasn't difficult, really, at all. Here's the line for the motor. It's running from the motor in, and of course I have my weatherproof strip and all that, and wires directly into here. As you can see, some of my questionable things that I probably have to redo at some point, but that was just quick on the fly, and then I got an actual splice and everything. And see some of my labeling I've done here because I've had this all ripped apart and done splicing and etc. But we're not going to get into that today. Now here on the other side, that little doodad there on the end of my motor, that is not the original sprocket that would come on one of these motors. I've replaced that with a 14-tooth sprocket, and it's very easy to get off. You basically, when you have the motor and the chain off, you just basically take a pair of channel locks, lock onto the gear itself, the sprocket, and then you just spin off the nut, and it comes right off. It's a D shape, and when you put the new one on, it just fits right in snugly. You just do it the same way, except backwards. Just tighten it down, you know, and while holding the gear itself, the teeth and everything, they're resilient. They're not going to bend or anything. You give it a good crank, slap it on, and because of the way the motor spins, it's not going to back off or anything. You could even leave it kind of loose. It'll probably tighten itself over time. It's pretty interesting. Well, I was asked before about how I actually mounted the motor to this. And it's not necessarily an easy task. You probably a 3/8 drill bit, or I'm not exactly sure what I used, but I used a carbide drill bit specifically for metal, and I drilled through. I had to make a couple of new holes in this round plate here to mount the motor. This particular motor, it's a Unite 1000 watt motor. It's listed on Electric Scooter Parts website, so I mounted it through, you know, about there. You just sort of measure the center, because there's a hole here for where the, you know, the sprocket and everything comes through. Just measure that and sort of center it and move it forward enough to where, you know, your chain is going to bite it. And it actually, it leveled pretty well here. So there's no rubbing. It's actually quieter than the original motor was. Anyway, there's no buzz saw noise or anything. And, you know, just, it flushed quite well here. You just got to make sure where the cup is, and it doesn't quite fall into the cup, so just leave it around the rim of that, and measure your hole. And unfortunately, I couldn't find machine screws that fit the threads on the inside of this motor, so I borrowed from my deck. Those fit perfectly, so I'm running without those. But those work exceptionally well to mount the motor. It's solid. It's going nowhere.
Go.
Okay, so we're going for a ride here. We get between cars.
Nice. Stop.
Okay, brake check, good. Bigger batteries, bigger motor, bigger motor sprocket. So far, and whatever I do after that, I'll keep you guys updated. Okay. Button thingy and then the thumbs up or whatever the hell that does. That'd be cool too. Don't have to, but I'd like it. And yeah, keep thinking forward.